So, one of the things that I've got to complain about, I was wrong about something related to this fragrance right here, which is Dynasty from Lattafa. Um, Something that I mentioned and I thought, and after some research, found that I was actually inaccurate. I was incorrect. So, I'm going to tell you what that is. We're going to have that conversation on the other side of the intro. Stick around. All right, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, and you're watching Smell Goods. I appreciate you coming through. Appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit. Hope you're having an amazing day, an amazing week, and you're smelling good, because that's what we want to encourage around here is smelling good, right? If this is your first time, appreciate you coming through. Hopefully this isn't your last time. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, requesting notifications, and then meet me in the comments. Let me know that it's your first time. We are on the road to 10,000. We're at 6,400 as far as subscribers right now. Definitely know we're going to hit that 7,500 at some point soon, but I'm really pushing. My goal is to hit 10,000 pretty soon. So hopefully you can help contribute to that with a subscription. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does keep you engaged so that every time I drop a video, you're here. Like the Smell Good Squad, which I want to welcome y'all back to the video as well. All right. So as mentioned, Lattafa released this a little earlier this year, maybe about 2 or so months ago. This is Dynasty from Lattafa. And I did a video actually asking if this was maybe the new king of Lattafa, just because it's a very nice fragrance. And when I did that review, again, I did not know, just because Lattafa is known for, of course, doing their renditions, their takes, their inspirations of other things. So I was like, okay, let's see what other people are ascribing it to. And the 2 fragrances that kind of jumped out for a lot of folks that were saying this is what it's doing its take of was Chris Collins' African Rubios and Clive Christian El Red Tea Vetiver, right? Looking at the notes, I didn't see necessarily both, but I was like, okay, if it's a clone, it's going to lean more towards, and I gave it as the El Red Tea Vetiver. So that's what I kind of said. If it's going to be a clone, this is what it is. So in the meantime, of course, I've had time to spend with the fragrance, so I can definitely talk to things like projection, sillage, and longevity, talk to that. But I want to tell you kind of where I missed it. And I actually had the opportunity to put nose again on African Rubios, and I can unequivocally say it's not doing its take on that. I also had the opportunity this past weekend to put nose on El Red Tea Vetiver. I can say it's not that either. So what that means is that Lattafa, for looks like the second time within the last 12 months at least, Lattafa has released another original. Dynasty is an original fragrance. Dynasty is their own fragrance, which means Lattafa is shifting, maybe not fully away from doing inspirations, but they're adding the originals into their repertoire. They're working with perfumers of other brands that we might know from other brands. They're working with other folks, and they're releasing their own original fragrances. Interesting, right? And for me, what's also interesting is that the top 2 fragrances for me from Lattafa right now, Teriyaki Intense, which is an original, and Dynasty, which is an original. So just to refresh your memory as far as what Dynasty is, Dynasty up top, you've got bergamot, you've got ginger, clary sage, raspberry, and nutmeg. In the middle notes, you've got the Rubios tea, you've got some suede, and then in the base notes, you've got cashmerean, cedarwood, and amberwood. So this opens with the nice citrus, the nice raspberry note is there. Even that clary sage is there. There's a little spice from that ginger and that nutmeg, as it were. But then the tea, for me, the tea is kind of the star of the show. Now, it's not an overly tea fragrance where it's just like all tea, but especially after I've had some time with it, the tea with the raspberry and the citrus in there works really nicely. And then as it starts to dry down, as it starts to kind of settle down, that suede comes out a little more, and then more of the woodiness comes out. This is an amazing fragrance. This is a fragrance that I'm definitely enjoying. Definitely have worn to work quite a few times, and worn around the house, and worn out with wifey. I've worn it, right? So you can see the dent there. So I can also speak to as far as the sillage. Now, bear in mind, I can be somewhat of an oversprayer. right? But this definitely does flow off of skin. It definitely does flow off of clothing. Now, it's not a room filler, it's not a room shifter, but it does create this nice scent bubble, this nice area around you where you're going to be smelling good and people are going to be able to pick it up and notice it. And you might get some compliments off of that. As far as even the scent trail, I can tell you, in fact, I wore it recently to work and walked past someone and they were coming from the opposite direction. They were like, "Hey, you smell nice." Appreciate that, right? As far as longevity, now longevity for me, and again, bear in mind this is anecdotal. I'm not sitting there with a stopwatch, but I do know that a couple of times that I've worn it, I'm still picking it up towards the end of a workday, if not, even when I'm on my way home. So anecdotally, we're looking at about 7 to 8 hours of wear, right? And actually, maybe even a little more if I take into account the time it took for me to put it on, get to work, and then towards the end of the day. So we're looking at slightly above average as far as its longevity. Now, that's really good considering that you have a heavy, you have citrus up top. And if you don't about citruses, as far as in the notes and in the accords and in fragrances, citruses don't really last a long time just because of the makeup of them, right? But with that tea note and then the suede and then even the woodiness that's at the bottom of this, at the base of this, it lasts for a pretty long time, a pretty nice time. Like I said, above average, 7, 8 hours, maybe even a little longer than that. This is a fragrance that I'm highly just saying I enjoy it. In fact, I was recently at a Burlington, just checking out because it's that time of the year where rack stores start to fill up. And one of you recognized me and was like, "Hey, you do?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And asked me about Dynasty. And I was like, "Yeah, it's one of my top two." So just to give you, again, the feedback and give you the things, again, you're looking for performance, looking for projection, all those things. It does it very well. But I did have to come back and also correct, something that I mentioned that I was kind of leaning towards. This is not a clone. This isn't a take. This is an inspired fragrance. This is an original fragrance from Lattafa, which means we might be seeing some things from Lattafa that might really shift how they are perceived and how they're handled in the fragrance industry. Of course, they have been, everybody kind of is like, oh, they write them off as far as Middle Eastern. They write them off as far as clone, cover remixes, inspired takes, all of that fun stuff. But they've put out two bangers, Teriyaki Intense and Dynasty. And these are originals. Take that for what you will. But Lattafa's doing what they need to do. Lattafa's staying relevant, and Lattafa's putting out some good stuff. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Does this change maybe how you perceive Lattafa? Does now maybe Lattafa get some love as a niche brand as opposed to just being written off as a Middle Eastern brand? Let me know in the comments. And then, of course, do me the honor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, request notifications, and then also stay safe, stay sane, stay smelling good. I've got a video here for you to check out, and then we'll see you next video. Peace.